I was the manager of a on-site manager and security of I was going to say multi-dimensional, a multi-million dollar estate. And I was down there on the cove. They own the whole private cove there. And so I was down and the hills went up. And over there was the Secretary of Defense, Robert Gates, at the time, who I consider to not be on the level with the well-being of anyone. He's working for that government. And then over here on this hill was a spiritual master. And so I'm down there looking up. I'm looking up at the biggest problem on earth right over here, like, and then I'm looking over here at the biggest answer. And I'm down here just like looking back and forth, and living my life and living in nature and on the ocean and watching the sunset every day. And that guy over there, the spiritual guy, he teaches still to this day in Germany. He goes over there and trains those technical people. And whoever wants to learn has to go there. And but he was my neighbor. And so he would drive by while I was up by the gate. And I'd say, "Hey, Aravinda, how you doing?" And we talked as normal people. And he really appreciated that I didn't bow down to him and basically give my power up to him because he was so knowledgeable. And so he told me he had rediscovered the original sound language, had brought it forward out of the human collective where Sanskrit sprung from and Hebrew and like the base sound language. And I says, "Well, what would my name be in that language?" And so he asked me all these questions like, "What do you do?" And I says, "Well, I love doing earth energy work, like bringing in higher frequencies into the planet, into the core of the planet and blending it into the toroidal field for healing purposes and then working with people and animals and doing the same thing." Like, and he goes, "Give me a week." And he gave me this long description of the syllables and what the sounds meant. And he said that my name basically means summoning from the floor of creation, pure life energy, and boom, focusing it for healing purposes. And and so I got goosebumps when I said that. But I'm just reminding myself, I think, of like, oh my God, I better get on my game here because right now is the big need for that kind of ability on the earth. And also, I'd love to show people how to do this stuff because if I can do it, anyone can do it. Like, we're all equally capable, and there's no one that's above another, except for in their own mind, if they believe that. But that's just in their mind, like it's not true. We're equal, and anything anyone can do, another person can do also. And if somebody knows how to move the energy and clear somebody's energy field on the other side of the earth, well, that's something somebody would want to take note of because they can do it too. And maybe they're already doing it when they're thinking about someone in a bad way, like thinking down on them or thinking positive thoughts. What happens? Because when we focus, energy moves instantly. We need to know that.
So you make a great point. So what happens, imagine I think of a friend or someone and I think bad thoughts, they're so selfish, they've done this or that. And then imagine I think of this other person and I think, oh, I'm having such a great time with them. They're so amazing. I wish I would see them more often. What
Right.
happens with those two people as I have those thoughts about them?
Well, it's when we think of someone, we're communicating with them, even if we're not aware of it. I call it a tuning. We tune to their frequency like a radio station, and it's beyond time and space. It's in the present moment. And so whatever you're feeling is communicated. And so the baseline answer is that you're helping them, you're reinforcing something that they hold within themselves. So if someone's not a positive person, they have personal issues that they need to remedy in order to see their true self-worth, which is a whole nother thing to talk about. Because since we're made of this energy of life itself, how much more worthy can we be? Like, I mean, look how beautiful it is. I mean, in its perfect harmony, unless if we're out of harmony here and we make an out of harmony move, we disturb the harmony of life, starting with our own system. Like, and so, you know, so yes, what you asked is that they have problems, right? They got issues, obviously, and so when you said that to me, I could see the energy of this person on the negative, or the scenario, and it was a lower frequency, like a dark frequency, and the other person, it was light, and that light feeling within yourself when you talked about that, the reason it feels good is because a higher frequency is what you are. Your true nature is a higher vibratory being. And so when you focus on something that matches in a way that matches your own nature, it feels good. That's the inner GPS. Holding a thought. Is it a good feeling thought or a bad feeling thought? If it's a bad feeling thought, that's your deeper self showing you that what you're focusing on is out of alignment. How you're focusing on what you're focusing on is out of alignment with your actual own nature. And so you're like, but it is true. And and that's true, like, and so what you do is you put it on the edge of your awareness. And we're taught to focus on things and to touch them and to join them on an energy level, now we feel like we don't feel good when we're focusing on something that doesn't feel good to us. And so what we need to understand how our system works. And oh, water delivery. I don't know if you'll hear it, but so we just need to understand how this system is designed to function, how we function as a being, so that we can do it in a way that is in our own favor, in alignment with the way it's created to function. When we feel abrasiveness or negativity, we're not running our system, we're running our system against the grain of it, like, instead of with it, like this. And so that's my whole purpose, is to show people how their system works, because right away you start realizing you are not your system, because yeah, and that, well, you start discovering that you aren't your system, and then you will end up discovering what you are, and then in relationship to your system. And that breaks the 3D focus. And just turning off your thoughts at will, you discover that you're not your thoughts, you're not your body. Your body is, it's like the computer, you're the owner operator of your body. And, like, literally, and in this case, we want to be the owner and have that responsibility, because as the owner, we can adjust our system in any way we choose. We can be worse than we are. We can dump all that and be as good as we can be. And we can literally become aware of the whole function and adjust it into the alignment. Basically, what we're after is to run our system in alignment with the nature we are. But part of the process is recognizing your nature. It's not separate from you. It is what you are. And so we don't have a frame of reference around this normally, like, unless you're raised in a family that already has this frame of reference. And so, well, there's no, so basically the nature of nature, like we could call it the source of life. Well, that's what we are. We're the nature of nature. Like our nature is made of nature, of the source energy of life. And so how much more worthy and beautiful can we be? Like, and so and you take that idea or that knowing or that feeling of what that feels like to think that thought, to hold that focus, and then you compare it to the to what we are going through in our life, not knowing that. It's a train wreck, really. Even if we got it easy, it's still a train wreck because we think we're all a train wreck. All the cars are falling off the track in every direction, and it's just not good. We're off track. And so here we are, billions of us being born, living a full life, and re-emerging the near-death thing without coming back into our true self, retracted back in, and then it goes from there. And each of us, that's another thing, each of us is fully unique and individual. We're like the flavor of our being. There is no other that is you or me or anyone. So we're like a flower that is a creation that is only one. There's only one of them. And I mean, how more rare and special can somebody be, really? And so I'm getting right now from that part of myself. So the primary relationship, let's go there. We can adjust that relationship is hardwired in our intuition, insight, comprehension, knowing, just knowing. Like you just know your head turns and someone's looking at you from 100 feet away. There's no way you knew, but the inner part of you did know and turned your head and you looked right in their eyes. And then they looked away, right? Like we have knowing, and so all of that is the inner communication that is embedded within us from that source level of ourself. And so what we want to do is change that. We want to adjust that relationship so that it's conscious, so that we are literally consciously receiving information. This is what I've done. And so I'm not guessing. And I'm attempting to dial it in better and better because, well, just because I have to. Otherwise, my life isn't very pleasant. Like what I did is I gave my inner self permission to interrupt me while I'm talking and not to wait in between thoughts. Like it'll put information in while you're not engaged, respecting your choice of focus, whether it's positive or negative. And then, and so I'm like, okay, I recognize how it functions, how it communicates with me. And so I had a meeting with that level of myself, and I was like, I want you to interrupt me right in the middle of a sentence while I am focused and tell me if I'm off, interrupt me if I'm off, tell me why I'm off and what the actual answer is in one flash, not in words, just realization, comprehension, like knowing, like that language that we experience every day. Like we always are experiencing this communication, this internal, I get the word from that part of myself, function. Um, and this is what happens all the time. I get words and I'll say them, and I might not consciously be aware of what's going on and clairvoyant readings and stuff. I'm like, well, it doesn't really make sense to me, but this, I'm saying this, but I don't actually know what it means. Does it mean anything to you? And like, oh yeah, it means something to me. And like, and so and it happens to us, we'll be focusing on something and we get more ideas about it surface into our mind. That is because whatever we focus on grows, it magnifies. And that part of us is informing us, is giving us more information about what we're interested in and we're focusing on. And a lot of times it's something we didn't know before. And so this, what we're after here is discovering how this works. What is the design here? And my job when I work with people is just to point out what, because I see it within myself and I'm observing and I can see where you are on that level within you. I point at it while it's happening and you notice and it brings it into your conscious awareness. And now you are conscious of an internal, previously unconscious process within your own self. And that's to me, it's the only way to discover is through you. And because we've been taught to memorize facts and recite them on cue without any life experience about this subject matter. And it's like, and then we argue and police each other like, no, it's Caribbean, not Caribbean, and it's potato, not potato. And so we're keeping each other in line with this thing that doesn't matter at all. It's just it's this attempt to control. I'm getting this feeling that I should expound on when you focus on somebody, positive or negative, what happens. So basically you're in a way we either are cursing or blessing somebody when we think of them, unless we know how to be neutral. And then we can observe without doing either of those, cursing or blessing them. And so, but what the sun's starting to come up over, what I've done or developed, see, I can't really take claim on this level for all this stuff I've discovered because it's the deeper part of me that is showing me these things that already knows. And it's like, hey, do it this way, try this. And it'll give me an upload, like, check out this, boom, like, and I'm like, oh, and then I do it. And see, the deal is that when we focus, that level of ourself moves the energy into that alignment. And so when I'm doing healing work with somebody, I'm focusing on them. I call it focus neutral. I focus like a radar, but I open at the same time. And I'm listening to my inner source self, the intuition, the insight. I'm waiting for it to show me what I'm looking at. What is here? What am I supposed to be seeing here? What is going on here? And then it'll give me it'll show me what to focus. It'll give me an idea of a technique to focus. Many times it's a technique that I've never heard of, but it makes total sense because I have comprehension coming through with the information. Oh, I get it. And when I hold the focus, when I hold the focus that it shows me to hold, then as it always does, it moves the energy into that alignment. And so but it's like an invitation. You have to focus it for it to move the energy because we can't micromanage from a personality level, a multidimensional reality. We don't even hardly know how we breathe, let alone how to move energy anywhere on earth or within our own system. Even we don't even know. We can't, that's not our position is to focus. And then that part of us moves it into that alignment. And it's very simple. And in the highest function, it is heaven. Because what you hold, what you image and feel becomes your reality. And so, of course, that's the way it works anyway. It becomes your, getting a correction. It becomes your experience. Reality, I guess reality is a loaded word. And because it implies one reality, usually it points back to the training. There's only one way, and it's the way we have authorized. And if you deviate from it, you're wrong enough. We're going to make you outcast now because you're not authorized and certified, and like the whole system is locked down. And so we are more than we know, and we can know the more that we are. And we can work directly with it in the present moment. and live our life in that relationship. And so this is my whole purpose. All the work I do is to help people clear the clutter so they can get straight to the process, because we collect stuff through our whole life. Identity layers, like key points in our life that we felt a specific way within ourselves that are really strong and magnified. Like anything in the environment will trigger that to the forefront. And now we're feeling like we felt when we were 15 or something, and like, whoa, how we knew ourselves then. And we need to unload those identity layers, remove them. And in order to become present with the nature you are, it's part of the process is to recognize how all this works and to work with it. What ends up happening is the inner part of you brings it to the forefront out of the thousands of things we've collected and that we have in motion. It'll bring it to the forefront for you to reconsider and decide whether you want this running program in your system. And then of course, if it doesn't feel good, you don't want it. It might have served you then, but it's not serving you now. It doesn't reflect how you wish to experience yourself in your life. And so then you need to know how to unload it. And it's not really that hard, because everything is created through the images we hold and the feeling we generate. And we're very creative. We are creative life. And so every technique that was ever devised or shown or utilized is well, some people don't use their visual, they're more feelers or more auditory. And so you use your senses to align, to construct a creative maneuver to remove that from your system. And while you're holding that in mind, the deeper part of you shows you how. Because you're holding a focus and it gives you more information about the focus. Like it's a normal process. And so my job is to like, when I communicate with people, I'm on the move, I'm super flexible, and I'm listening to that part of me, and I'm like, it's showing me, well, I really need to claim it, because we are one. The source part of ourself, this is one unit with many aspects. And so I'm just listening and waiting for the part of me that does know, and the part of me that functions on that level to inform this level of what I'm looking at and what focus to hold or what to say. Or it'll give me information of where someone is. I'll even see, like we all do, like if you think of your cat or your toilet, like you'll get a flash, a picture of it, like in your mind, like. And so what I'm doing is, um, what we all actually need to be doing is becoming aware of how this functions, and to rearrange our the way we know ourselves into the alignment of the actual truth of what we are and what we're an inseparable part of. And here I am jumping all over. Of course, that's my nature though. So I love moving.
No, but I
So
can see you have this fantastic energy around you. I love that.
so what we're supposed to be doing is discovering these things and sharing these discoveries, and not saying, hey, the way I figured it out is the way, quote unquote. But it's more like, water is wet, the air moves, the sun shines. There are some basic principles that we can all agree on. And that is how it works with this system. That we can all, what we need to do is talk about it in a very distilled, direct way that bypasses politics and religion and addresses programming. Like it'll pop up all our anyway. So I got off the track of the NDE there.
No, but
But
I
what
think
it led to.
it's so important, because I think so often we're, as you said, unaware of the programs we're running, and we're always running programs, whether they're for our benefit or
Right.
for our demise, right?
Right.
So we're always in that cycle. And it sounds to me like this is the most important work we could ever do, working
Yeah.
on ourselves. And I love to use the term energy PS. I will use it from now on. I love it.
Energy what?
Energy PS.
Oh, inner GPS.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. I've heard different big teachers talk about that, but it's totally true. It's a our inner GPS is that what it really is anything we focus on, we compare it to our nature. And the comparative analysis is how we feel about that, or like in that position that we're focusing. And so like what is our resonant alignment with what we're focusing on, and that goes down to, it comes to our thoughts, like uh the thought we hold, which is the beginning of the alignment process of the manifestation of our life. Like, I mean, I don't claim to be a master at this. I'm in the process of discovering all this, and have been for a long time, and I'm dialed in enough to where I'm constantly being dialed in. And I will go off track, and I will be shown that right away now. Whoop, or I'll notice because it doesn't feel good, or I'll notice if I'm running on a program, or if I'm basically channeling or direct information from the part of me that knows everything. Like, it's not, you got to be careful about the word channeling. At the Psychic Institute, they're like, we do not channel. But I'm like, well, but we do. We're tuning in and channeling the very source of our nature. Like, and they're like, oh yeah, yeah, that's true. And like we're dialing each other in, when people come together for growth, um, if it's real growth, here's how you'll know what facilitator to pick, or someone to communicate with. The person who points at you, helps you put your power back into your hand right away. Like, you are the author, which is the opposite of authority, outside self-proclaimed authority over you through the objective perception training. And we went through that. Everything's outside of us. We get to know ourselves in relationship to everything over there. We totally aren't referencing the true nature that we are. We totally lose track of who we are and what our relationship is to the rest of what is on the real level. It all becomes imaginal, intellectual, logical, gets locked down. So I got a little off track. Uh, I mean, I lost my
Right.
track on that because I have strong feelings about it. I mean, everyone it's like everyone is in distress. Like, at least separation anxiety from the very source of their own being. Like, we've lost track of who we are and what we are and what we're a part of and what is our nature. I know what the dog's nature is. I know what the cat's nature is. I know what the tree's nature is, but what is my nature? What is my relationship within nature? And we could talk about it all day, but that discovery comes from within you, from that nature. That when you desire to know and you go after that desire, to that part of you, you give permission to that part of you to bring that to the forefront and to start schooling, or not schooling you, to start revealing to you what you are. And it's in relationship to the nature you are. So I'm so dialed on distillation and direct information in a way that doesn't offend the religious, or of course, if someone really really wants to live that experience and they want to dial their life in that way, then, well, in Christianity alone, it's like, don't dabble with this stuff, it's witchcraft. And the reason they do that is to keep you any system will tell you, like Western medicine, um uh don't do anything holistic. Don't do anything but what I tell you. So, you can't, you only do what I say. I just had a recent, I just sold a 105-pound rose quartz to a millionaire on Orcas Island. I took it over to him I got $1,000 for it. It's probably worth 3 times that much. And he told, I says, I'll give you an energy clearing because I've gave him a clearing before, and an energy healing or clearing, or clearing out a system, and getting the interference off of him so that he can function, like out without interference. So all the processes going on can happen, and they're not being blocked or hitting blocks. And he said, I'm working with a woman who's from Arcturus, and she's a walk-in, and she embodied, and she tells me not to let anyone else touch my energy in any way. And I was like, oh, I was shocked, like this person's like siphoning his money and controlling him, right? But if it's what he chooses for himself, that's okay. That's where he is in his growth. And that's where he's at. That's what he's doing. That's his thing. It's none of my business, right? And so I just said, that's what Western medicine says. And he said, yeah, I know. And I just let it go. But then I asked him before I drove off, can I have that lady's name and look her up? And because I want to, I learned from looking at people's energies that aren't putting the power in your hands right away. You are the power, not somebody else. Your ideas, sure, you might do an imitation, like I'll show you how to move energy one way of infinite ways. And then as you do it, the inner part of you starts dialing you in right away. How do you personalizing it for you and giving you ideas of how you could use this for yourself in whatever way. And you end up like outgrowing the immediate. You might want to stick with it and dial it in just so you can feel it. But then your job, which you can't help, it's not even a job. Your nature will outgrow it, and it will expand upon it and personalize it in a way that matches you. And so all this idea about there's only one way and you got to do it my way, and this is what I've discovered and this is the way it is, that's all a crock of crap.
I couldn't
Yeah.
agree with you more. So, John, tell me, for the people that want to get in touch with you, how can they find you and your work?
Well, you go on my website, or you could email me directly. I have so many emails for different purposes. But to keep with the website, kadam.com, you could go on kadam at protonmail.com, and KHADHAM. And, I've tried and tried to keep my consultations down to 15 minutes, the free ones, but it always ends up being like 40 minutes or an hour. So I made a in-depth discovery call that, and to charge a little. I get a lot of crap. We just, my partner and I, she's a sound healer. I'm training her on all this stuff that I know that she doesn't know. She's showing me, we're cross training. She's showing me what she knows, and we're both getting ideas that we didn't have before from cross training, like that, what I was just mentioning. You personalize it and it grows, and you expand beyond the original. That very well could be what we're doing on a total life level, is the original source we're expanding beyond that, or expanding it. The it is what we are, though. So we're not like doing this service for some being, and not getting anything out of it. It's actually what we are. We're expanding ourselves. And there's this big thing going on in the world about being basically the difference between absolute freedom and total enslavement. And so far the human species has been enslaved through thought, through warmongers, through giving through trust and kindness. The very trust is what has been used against us as a species, because all life just naturally trusts. And oh yeah, here's a stick, I'm going to make my nest, and the bird makes its nest and the food's just right there. And we have this inborn trust, and that has been used against the human species, to where our parental umbilical is pulled out and stuck into the government, the medical science, judicial and law enforcement, into other people's systems. We are the author of our own being and our own life. We are the author, not some stranger we would never allow to babysit our children, or to have, we wouldn't even have dinner with them, because they're such criminals. I mean, they're in, they're so what the only answer that I can see so far is to not focus on that, and to focus on this and that nature, this nature, and the larger nature it's a part of. This is the work that carries through beyond this life. When we do that, when we're going to drop this body, if we didn't figure out how to turn it into pure light and take it with us, if we're going to drop this body, or when we're getting ready to, the natural next step is simply to step into what you've already been doing. Awareness development of what you are and what nature is, and your relationship to it, your working relationship. You're not, the you that you've discovered is the you are there also. Like, instead of thinking, if you think you're your body, and you identify with your possessions solely, without the soul involved, that you are, then you're really I mean, like, what is going to happen? Like, you're going to be like, oh my God, you're going to have to be completely re-educated when you step over. And that's actually what does happen. There's a complete upload. You're like getting interfaced with, and helping you come out of it, like out of amnesia. Like, come on, come on. This is upload after upload after upload from the source of your own being. And then finally you're back. Oh, and then wherever it goes from there, because each of us is unique and different. And we can't really say it happens just one way, because nothing does. Like right here, like they look the same, but nothing is the same. Not one blade of grass. Everything's unique. And
So true.
like, unity in diversity. There's a unity, but it's all diverse. And so it's like this multi-dimensional idea. When you start thinking about it, it's like, well, how can unity be diversity? Well, just look around you. Here's some. Here's some right here. You and me, you
Exactly.
know, we're both
That's
source energy.
That's so true. And I absolutely love your message. And I think the work that you're doing is just so important for all of us to understand and to get in touch with. So thank you for what you do.